Welcome to the Hawks Talk podcast. All things Blackburn Hawks.
In behind the defence, cuts around, scores! Blackburn Hawks win this game 8 goals to 5.
All the latest news, player interviews and much more.
Shoots, scores!
Hawks Talk.
Welcome back for an off-season episode of the Hawks Talk podcast. It's been a very busy couple of weeks, especially for this man. Let's catch up with him. Head coach of the Blackburn Hawks, Dominic Osman. How are you, Dom?
Yeah, I'm doing good.
Good stuff. Has it been nice to get a break from the hockey?
I'd call it hardly a break.
What have you been doing with yourself the past couple of months since the off-season?
To be honest, I've dove into work. It's getting busier and busier for us. Obviously taking on that new job last year. So it's I was like I said, just kind of working, just doing the same thing that I've been doing since the end of the season. But sometimes, obviously, when the season ends and the building begins, the building work can be a lot busier, I guess you'd say, in terms of trying to make sure guys are happy, and you want to retain the top players, and you don't want to go anywhere. And rightly so, a few of the players needed to kind of have a bit of a think and and see what we were planning on doing, how we were building, and I think that was going to be a big decision maker for them to want to come back. Is what are we doing to improve? Because if not, then what are we doing? Type of thing. And I get that as a player. You want to play, you want to compete, you want to be the best, and so yeah, it's been busy, very, very busy on my off time that I haven't been working. I'm on the phone, so there's not a lot of downtime, to be honest.
Let's jump right into it then. Last season was a strong campaign, second in the league, 2 finals appearances, but unfortunately no silverware this time round, but still a lot to be proud of. So as the off-season began, how do you approach your planning, and what does your process look like?
Well, you just kind of have to look at what the last season brought, right? And the success that we had, I thought was very good. But also, if we want to be completely honest, we didn't really achieve what we wanted to. We didn't defend any of the titles that we gained the year before. But on the other hand, I think we had one of the longest winning streaks that we've had in years, right? You finished second place and quite comfortably, to be honest. I don't think it was it didn't come down to the wire or anything like that, but we finished second place. I think a lot of what made you realize the changes that were going to need to be made was when guys went down during the cup finals. We had guys missing, guys hurt, and then the playoffs as well. We had guys playing hurt, and so that kind of shows you what direction you're going to need to go, right? If that's indeed the way you want to go. Right. The last couple of years we've been building on wanting to be able to provide a place where players can come in here and accomplish their hockey goals. But then it kind of took a little bit of a right turn with the board, and rightly so. They're in a position where they want to push to win now. Right. So in that sense, there has to be changes made, because we proved that we couldn't do it with what we had last year. Right. So I'm not saying that those guys are bad guys or anything, or horrible hockey players, but if we have an opportunity to improve and the board is putting the pressure on to win, and that's the direction they want to go, that's the way we're going to go, right? And ultimately that decision comes down to myself to be able to put the most competitive team on the ice, and you can't have infinite amount of players. Yep. And you can't have players hanging around either that may not be getting the ice time, and you can't risk having them. Like it's not easy not getting ice time, and you want to make sure that it's not bringing the room down either, right? So you have to kind of calculate and evaluate all those sort of situations, and learn from what has happened in the past year to help you learn and evolve. And if you don't, then you're not doing your job. That's as simple as that.
You touched on it a little bit there. What sort of key areas or points from last season have influenced your off-season decisions and when looking at building your new roster?
Well, I mean, look, the fact of the matter is we built a very good core. We've got a lot of skilled players. It's funny because you hear, a lot of people saying, "Oh, we're really getting the checkbook out for this one," and it's like it's funny as hell because they don't know anything. Those people are like, "Oh, they're spending money." They're not. Like we don't have a massive budget. These guys are here because they want to be. You know what I mean? Like, and to be honest, I always say it, guys at certain calibers do deserve more, but unfortunately, if there's nothing to give, you just can't give it,
Yeah,
right? So, but also they have to decide, would they rather go and be in a no offense position, right, to anyone or anything like that, or do they want to have a chance and an opportunity to win and play with a group of guys that they feel like they can, go for it and things like that. So those are the guys that are here, right? And I've got to give it to them because they're, we've got guys that have like literally settled for, don't get me wrong, they deserve what they get and they should get what they get, but there's guys that have settled that had offers, massive offers from other people that are saying that they're opening their checkbooks. Well, they're the ones who offered them that much more, and they're still sticking with us. So what does that tell you? You know what I mean? So it's no, it's good. But I think the to answer that question, it is exactly that. What happened when it came down to it, right? We had a couple top guys down and we didn't get it done, which means if we have guys going down this year, we need to try and find guys that can step in and help get it done, right?
yeah,
And that's the bottom line. That's the honest truth. That's the bottom line. And there's no offense to anyone. But the fact of the matter is, if we have an opportunity to bring someone who we feel can get the job done, that's what we're going to do. And unfortunately, because it's a sport and it's hockey, and again, you can't have that many players, you have got to sacrifice the make the changes where you feel that you're going to make the improvement, if that
yeah,
makes sense,
yeah,
right?
definitely. Yeah,
So we decided we wanted to go with a little bit more skill. We decided we wanted to go with a little bit more, guys that could possibly maybe play up and down the lineup, right? As opposed to just being a spot on the roster and things like that, where guys can play with, right? Because it matters to them too as well. Like, we need to make sure that we're having guys that can read the game, that can, play at the highest level, that have a bit of skill, but also you kind of have to make sure that they fit in the room well too,
yeah,
right?
definitely.
So, the important thing is making sure we're bringing in the right kind of people.
Yeah,
And we believe that we've done that. So,
yeah,
now again, I have to give a hell of a lot of credit to the boys that aren't coming back because we wouldn't be where we are right now if it wasn't for them. It was all part of the process. But there's also, Graham talks about it all the time. It's the evolution of the club. This is where we're going. This is what we want to accomplish. Great. Once that comes down from the top, it's got to filter from there. And when you say, look, then these are the changes that need to be made, and they said, then make them, then and we have their support, right?
yeah,
So not once did we run into a situation where they were like, no, no, well, you can't do that. You can't. It was absolutely, we support you, we agree with you, which was great, which made it a hell of a lot easier too as well. When Ollie and I sit here and we talk about the team that we signed, you look back and you're like, whoa, like, okay, like this is a hell of a team here, right? But also those guys need to realize too as well that it's down to them on the ice to get it done now. You know what I mean? We can only do so much from the coaching end too, right? Short of getting dressed and trying to go out there and do it, which to be honest with you, I wouldn't put myself above any one of those guys on the roster. Then get as shorter than that, like they just got to get it done now. But it's great, the team group. We have a WhatsApp group, and the team just seemed to gel and chirp each other, and they're already getting together and trying to plan days out during the summer and what are we doing before the season starts and all this kind of stuff, and that's something that you don't see, and it's everyone's getting involved, which is great to see.
Yeah, definitely. You brought it up there, and as a fan, being in that position as a club where people are saying things like, "Oh, you're getting your checkbook out" and things like that, but we're in a
It's
position
funny.
yeah, we're in a position as well financially to back it up as well because we get the gates, we get like
Yeah. Look, I understand that. And, we are in a better place than we have been. The club is in a great spot, right? Whether that means financially, whatever it means, right? But again, it's not unlimited.
yeah,
And that's what guys have to understand too, as well, because you just don't know. You get into October and something happens, and people decide, oh, we're going to have to hold back that month and we can't spend money on hockey. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
but also there's got to be a good balance to the point where you don't run into a situation halfway down the line where you're spending all this money and then all of a sudden it's not there and you're like, okay, well, you guys, and it happens in British hockey a lot,
yeah,
right? More than we'd like to see it. And you don't want to get, halfway through the season and tell these guys, well, it's either you're gonna have to sacrifice it or, go play elsewhere, this and that. Like the hockey players are loyal, right? They're 98% of them are going to stay even if that happens. But the problem is the more that it happens and if it continues to happen, that's when you can get yourself in trouble. So there's got to be a really good balance. So no, we didn't open the checkbook. We had a little bit, we had more, let's put it
yeah,
that way. We had more, but one thing I do respect about the board is they're very smart about it.
yeah,
Right.
definitely.
And that was something that me and Ollie, and trust me, we'll push it. Of course, that's why wouldn't we?
Yeah,
That's our job. That's, you put the pressure on us, we put the pressure on you, and but the good thing, it's not like pressure. It's not like a negative thing. It's a very positive
yeah,
aura at the moment. We that there's this tub is gone or this club has gone from tranquil times. It's come it's struggled at times. It's you know, but hockey has in general, and who doesn't? And there's things that I don't agree with that the board wanted to do, and the board didn't agree with things that I wanted to do and Ollie wanted to do. But at the end of the day, you get through it.
yeah,
But you do it for the betterment of the organization, and you do it for the betterment of the boys because they're the guys that are going on the ice and they're the ones that are playing. End of. That's it. You don't have them, you don't have anything.
it's true.
So but also, there's going to be a bit of pressure that I'm going to put on them this year, Ollie and I, because let's face it, you imagine sitting in that room right now, just standing in the middle of that room and looking around it, right? And on paper, that doesn't mean anything. On paper, we've won, right? Like
Yep.
that's what people are saying. On paper, they win, right? No matter what teams the other teams build. And I haven't really been paying attention to that either, which I should probably start to. My focus was purely on Blackburn.
Yeah,
I didn't want any distractions. I didn't want any of those types of things to sway my judgment on players, right? And things like that. But we have picked up some amazing guys and some amazing players this year. We've done it over the last 3 years, but this year just proves that we've created a place, an atmosphere, and that's from the club, the owners on down, right? Where people want to come to play. And that was the end goal. But again, with that comes heartbreak sometimes and hard conversations. And to be honest, like I said, I'm only a couple years into this. I've only had to have a couple hard conversations, right? But this year, the conversations were a hell of a lot harder, a
yeah,
lot harder. So, and you got to be careful because you want to do it with compassion and, and fairness and things like that. But the only thing you can do is be honest because I ain't gonna lie to a guy. Like and if any guy asked you, I'm sure they would tell you that I've told them the truth up front. This is why we are making the change. These are the players. Well, I didn't tell them who the players were, but they can see them now. This is the direction that we're going to go, unfortunately, right? For those players that you have to make the change. And it's hard. It,
yeah,
it, it really was. I mean, me and Ollie, we dreaded it, you know. Me mostly because I was the one that had to say, look, that's the final decision. I'm the head coach. But on Ollie's been great. He backs me, he talks to me and we agree. But I rarely make a decision without talking to him without, hey, look, because it doesn't just come down to me. It comes down to all because, look, it's no secret we don't get paid as a living to do this. I have a job um, that's gonna demand me to be away from time to time. And who's stepping into that spot? Ollie, right? And then, Darren's coming in to help support him. So, on the bench. So these conversations have to be made because if I just go and say, no, I'm going to do it all on my own, I'm going to make all these decisions, then they're left with something they might not have agreed with.
Yeah.
But we try and work it as a team. And I have to say that, Ollie being my right hand man, I couldn't do this without him. I couldn't. So
Before we talk about some incoming players, then let's talk about some players that are leaving the club. Firstly, we've got to give an honourable mention to the departing record-breaking, now Hawks legend, club captain Aaron Davis. How do you manage that conversation? And as well, we've taken in like fan expectations when a long-serving and popular player is departing the club.
it's hard. It's hard to make those decisions, but again, in hockey, those decisions are made every day. Um, So, it's tough too as well. You got to think, I live a couple hours from the rink on a weekday because of the traffic. And, in the summertime, it is tough to get out there and I'm, and this is our busy time of work. So we first gave the option, say, look, I can't meet right now, but if we were going to meet, it's going to have to be a little while down the line in person, or we can do a FaceTime call, which we did. We set up a FaceTime with myself, with Aaron, but Ollie and Darren were actually there because they're local and they were in the room. And it was a long conversation. It wasn't 10, 15 minutes. It was a good, hour and a half conversation that we had. And it was hard, right? It was very, very hard. Um, so that's kind of how it played out. And we just explained to him, where we were, where the club is going, where, the evolution, what the board wanted, what they expected from us, and, what we expect from them and from the team, and how we need to, by this time we already had a couple guys committed, right? So it was, it's not something that I have too much respect for Aaron to say, hey, look, just come on and stay and, come out to knowing that he's probably not going to get a lot of ice time, right? As you do when you get older too, as well, right?
Yeah.
So, bringing a couple guys down from the National League and, bringing in another import, right? Those were all things that were right then and there. And so it was a hard conversation, but I respect the kid a lot. And he deserves, from the club, the recognition that he's going to rightly get and what they offered.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations to him on a fantastic career. I've
Unbelievable
enjoyed
career.
watching him
Great
for a
career.
long time, and
Mhm.
yeah, like you say, he's gonna get the recognition he deserves, and we wish him all the best with his retirement as well.
Absolutely, 100%. And it was harder for me because I remember my day.
Yeah,
I remember coming out. It was hard for Ollie. Ollie's very close to him. He's, it was probably harder for all. So, the situation was very tough because when it brought back a lot of memories of me coming out of hockey and how much I miss it and how bad I want to play still. And, but when it's your time, it's your time. And that is, it's just inevitable, right? Age catches up to us. And yeah, he may have a lot in the tank left, but it's not the direction we're going as Blackburn Hawks, if that
yeah.
makes sense, right? So it needs to fit for both parties, and that's the bottom line of it. And it's hard. It was really, really hard, to be honest with you.
Some more difficult decisions. We've seen Ethan Mayo, Ben Keddy, and Oliver Thomason leave the club as well. We'll touch on Josh and Darra in a second, but how
Yeah.
difficult was it to let those guys go, and what factors go into that decision?
Just, like Aaron too, as well, them being a part of the evolution of the club and being where we are now was down to these guys. They helped us get to where we are now. With E, it was, we agreed he struggled a bit, the last couple years with us, and that's okay. And I think both of us agreed that he needed a change. So I think that was a little bit more mutual.
Yeah,
Um, but as well as, we brought in another National League defenseman, right? And you got Lee Pullett, who after bringing the National League forward and an import forward in, we're not going to move him back up. He's solidified back there. That kid has played unbelievable back there.
yeah,
Why
definitely.
would we replace him back there? You know what I mean? Why would we try and mess with something that we found something that worked? And it's great to have that. But again, that was going to cause E to have a lot less ice time. Maybe not. To to even be picked into the roster. The other thing is we brought back Cade King. Um, and with Cade, there was a different reason why we parted ways with him. We were going down the development route. We were going with younger guys at the time. Cade is an older head, but also, we he's in much better shape. He's worked a lot harder on his fitness. He needed a little time away, I think, right? But when the conversation sparked back up between us, he's willing to be here and battle for a spot, but he's also saying, "Look, I want to be there in any capacity that I can be." Right? That there alone is something that you it becomes a no-brainer.
Yeah,
You love to hear that as a coach. You love to hear that as somebody who's trying to build a roster, that you got guys that are buying in for the reason. He knows that we have a
yeah.
chance to win everything.
Immediate buy-in. Yeah,
He wants to be a part of it in any capacity. And is ice time promised? No, it's not. But he's willing to battle for it. He's willing to step up his game. You can see again, his fitness is a big thing, right? He's worked on it, and I think that was probably the one of the bigger things that led to us departing the first time. But he's back. He's his head's in the right place now, and why wouldn't you? He played against us the last couple of years, and I thought that's not the Cade that I've seen.
yeah. I
No.
agree.
And immediately I became, even Ollie and I talked about it, at the end of the first year we didn't have him, and then halfway through this year we're like, well, if he's like that, then you know what I mean? Like he becomes interesting again. So Cade, we brought on Cade too as well. So that was kind of where we decided, okay, then you have a couple other guys that you're looking at too as well, but we also have another player who's massively improved the last couple years. He's taken step forwards, but he's also a utility guy now. We know that he can jump up on forward if we need him to. And that's in Sam Warnick. So we have a very strong, group like of guys, and we want to carry 7D playing wise, right? Um, we're going to carry 8, and I'll tell you a little bit about that a little bit later, because we're still going to bring a couple development guys on. We're still going to have that, but we're not going to have to count on them as much,
Yeah,
right? The last couple of years we were counting on those guys, and the thing is, when you're focusing on development and competing in this and that, it's easier for you to incorporate them in the lineup. But when you're looking at competing now, and you're looking at, hey, look, we want to take the lot, we want to take everything. Well, then, we have to go a little bit of a different direction and adjust a little. We're still going to have those guys. Will they see the ice? We don't know. We don't know how much, but we've told them honestly, but they're still at an age where they're a little bit younger. So, they need to really be playing at the NHL 2 level, getting game time. So
yeah,
when they're going to be playing at that level, we're not going to bother bringing them up. They're going to play. They're still getting ice time, and then they're going to train with us. And if we have ice time, if there's injuries and things like that, which there will be, there's going to be guys missing. It's the NHL one. This isn't guys' jobs. So they're going to be missing from time to time for holidays, for personal reasons. And that's where we can incorporate those guys too as well. And those guys I feel are quite important to have. So yeah, so with E, that was hard. When you touch on Keddy, it's as simple as, you have a chance to sign Harrison Walker. and to be honest, it's not just a chance to sign him for our team and how good he's going to be for us. Do you really want to be playing against him if
Yeah,
that's going to be
that's a
another
factor.
option? And so with Harrison, he's seasoned, he's more experienced. He's a bit older. He's played at a very high level, in the National League, because I believe that there's two levels in the National League, right?
Very true.
So he's been involved with the top team in the league for years, right? And that's invaluable experience that you're gaining when you have an opportunity to sign a guy like that. We of course um, we would have loved to keep, Ketty in a support role, but I I don't think that's best for his development. He wants to play at a higher level. We weren't going to be able to, and this we'll get into this conversation about the other two you talked about, Josh and Darra. We're not going to be able to risk guys skating, up a level, right, and losing players, um, to the higher team playing, at that time. If you're playing, there's a risk there too as well. And as much as, people believe that this should be a development league, hey, I agree too as well. But the fact of the matter is, not all teams are development in this league.
That's
If
true.
you're in that part of the standings where you're competing, then it's not strictly development, right? So yeah, it was a very, very hard conversation to have. I mean, we pulled we pulled Keddy at 16. He's a 20-year-old man now, right? And we can still take pride in the fact that he's done an unbelievable job for us. Um, but when you decide, okay, well, this direction you're going, and you have a chance to bring in a Harrison Walker, you bring him in, and the cards have to fall where they fall. So it is the unfortunate part about it, but you've seen that we've signed, Trappin's back as well. Ollie T, hard conversation. That one was more simple in terms of, well, there's a decision that had to be made there. If we're bringing another import, you physically can't carry another.
Yeah,
And so we couldn't carry Ollie because we're bringing in another import, right? So that's just the fact. That's not, hey, that we're replacing you. It's just, well, we've had an opportunity to strengthen, our forwards or our defensemen if we were going to bring in an import D-man. But if you're going to bring in one of those guys, then unfortunately that's where, the position that Ollie was in. So yeah, so it's they were all very hard conversations to have, and they got harder and harder as the last couple years evolved, right? So but yeah, that's kind of the bottom line and the truth, right? Like, I'm not gonna sit here and sugarcoat things, and it's just not me. It's not who I am. It's not who we are. As an organization, we're going to do what we can do to win this year, and this is what needed to be done to give us what we feel is the best opportunity, not what anybody else feels. Everybody else is going to have an opinion, but no offense, I'm not going to take anybody else's opinion on our professional judgment. It's our job. It's what we do. Otherwise, they would be in my spot,
yeah,
right?
true.
So
True.
yeah. So, and they would be in Ollie's spot, and they would be in, the board's position, right? To give the final okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, so, but the good thing is with the board, they don't. I never have to say, look, they've never come down and say, no, you're not signing that guy, or no, we'd like you to go a different direction. Hey, if that's what you feel needs to be done, then do it.
Yeah.
So you could see that there's pressure on me, which a little bit more pressure is going to come down on the team this year. So, right, if that's the bottom line as a head coach, if I'm going to take that pressure, then I'm going to transfer the pressure down to the guys too as well. But we talk about pressure as being a negative thing, but I don't think it is. I think it's a very, very, I think it's a challenge, and challenges are awesome. They're good.
Yeah.
So
Josh and Darra, they both came in as part of the pathway that we created. Both of them fantastic contributors over the past couple of seasons. Josh, a couple of seasons ago, winning 2 major trophies and played a big part in them. They've now both departed the club.
Mhm.
What was the story there? What happened there?
That's more of a development thing. They
Yeah,
kind of they w with other teams that first of all, I got to say how proud I am of them.
yeah,
Right?
100%.
They came in at such young ages and just made impacts immediately, and that's why that's put them in the position now where they're at, right? And with that again, I think Josh he's improved 10 every time he stepped on the ice. He got better and better, right? He was skating with a very high level team through the last 2 years. That's helped him do that too as well. So with him, his development, it was time for him to take the next step, right? And if they're ever going to use the NHL one, it needs to be as just a honing skills type of thing, right? But they need to be focusing on their goal, which is the next level, which is the National League, right? Because that's their development pathway. That's the way that they're going to go. The other part of it was, it's hard now because, and rightly so, and I completely agree with this. And it'd be the way that I would be if I was a National League organization, is they want their team, their players in their system. Rightly so. They earn that right, right? So, especially if they have a team in our level, in our league, why would they need to be over there, right? And I'll tell you, a little something about another guy who we have on that situation, but he's not quite where they are at the moment, right? In their development, he's not quite where these guys are. I mean, Darra's going to be he's going to be getting national time, when the NHL one doesn't play, he's going to be dressed in there and getting shifts here and there too as well. But he's also in a position where he's about ready to compete for that part of the lineup, right? Where guys are in and out. Okay.
That bottom
And
six.
yeah, I would say that. Is he going to be a top two line guy this year? I don't think so. I'd love him to be. But reality is he's very skilled. The kid can shoot, he can score, but he needs to have that ice time up there. And if the unfortunate thing about even the National League is they don't train during the day, they train at night, right? So that team is specifically going to want them on their training sessions, rightly so again. And you have to support that. So Darra had a tough choice to make. It was either you're with the Hawks or you're going to and you get the Thursday ice time session and whatever games you get on the weekend, or you go and play at the national level, get your 4 times on the ice with them at a higher pace, higher level, and then play at our level on a game on a weekend, but also jump up and down to the national level as and when needed, right? And that there was a very hard decision for Darra to make, but it was the right decision. And we support that and we back that, especially, when the conversation is being had with him. I always try to put, myself in that position, right? As a coach, as a promise you make to these guys and say, look, what are the reasons you're here? You know what I mean? And if they're here to get to the next level, then that is 100%. There is no 99.9%. It's 100% the right decision to make. And you have to tell them that. Now, you have to make that decision. I can't tell you what decision to make. He easily could have still made that decision. That doesn't mean he's not loyal to Blackburn. Doesn't mean he's not, he didn't love playing here. It was a very hard decision for him to make. And it wasn't taken, lightly, and it wasn't done overnight. Right. But again, too, as well as you have to support that. You have to, the timing was okay for us because again, we've evolved into, a team that we're able to bring players in to help us replace those guys. So these guys have to make those decisions to move on and to do what's right for them if they want to play at the highest level in the country, which their ultimate goal will be Elite League because that's what it should be at their age.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I said, I think you'll see Darra take steps massively this year, right? To the point too, as well as even if he was with us, would he have been with us the rest of the year? We don't know. I don't know. Because he was rapidly improving.
Yeah.
You saw him towards the end of the season, and when you improve that rapidly, you're gonna gain eyes and you're gonna get your opportunities. And he took it, and he should do. And we're very, very proud of him.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Crawley, of course.
We'll talk about some of the new signings in a moment, but I wanted to talk about the first three re-signings that we announced.
Mhm.
McKinney, Jake, and Barnesy. Firstly, how important was it to get those guys locked up and signed up? And what was the thought process for announcing them first?
So, look, with those guys, they're a heartbeat, right? They're the heartbeat. So, and I say that, but there's so many other guys that are the heartbeat too as
Yeah.
well. And but with those three guys, we Ollie and I sat with a lot of the team, coming up towards playoffs and things like that. Towards the end of the season, not on the weekends that were big weekends like that, we're getting ready to play, big games. And, if we were playing a team that we knew we should definitely 100% win, and, there could be a little bit of a distraction there. We sat them down, we brought the whole group in, as a whole. We didn't do it individually. We brought it in as a whole. I asked Ollie, I said, look, I said, as a head coach, I said, I think maybe if you can just throw out a couple feelers for the guys and see what they're thinking about next year, then we'll look forward at moving them together as a group and saying, look, this is the group that we want to take us to the next level. And if you guys are all committed, then we can push to bring in some guys to help support you guys. And um we use their advice, right? Where I don't think we're a lot like other coaches, as we're just signing the team and, hey, you're getting along with it, get the job done. It's, hey, when we sign different players, we do our research, but we also do our research through the team and say, look, we have an opportunity, we might be able to bring this guy in, what are your thoughts? Right. And that's where, the guys will say, yeah, actually that could help, and this and that. In the support that you get, talking to these guys, it's not, oh man, well, I don't know, because he'll take some of my ice time. You know what I mean? It literally is, yeah, absolutely. If you can get them, right? And because they want to win. You know what I mean? So we need to bank on them. And ultimately, as I said before, they're the guys on the ice. So you have to involve them in the thought process. This isn't the leagues where there's 100 players to choose from. There's not even 10 players or 5 players to choose from, right? So you have to utilize the players that you have to help build your team, and they have confidence in it,
Yeah.
right? There's no point going and saying, well, this is the team we side, here you go, get along with it. Like, right? Like, so we bank on a lot of guys. We bank on the Pullets, we bank on the Bobbies, we bank on the Kinneys, the Lutwiches, Barnesies, Roydsies. We bank on these guys to help us with our decisions, right? Ultimately, the decision is going to come down, right, to us and say, okay, well, look, I heard your opinion, but look,
Yeah.
I'm going to take the chance, and I need you to, to help me out now, type of thing. But the good thing is, with all the guys that we have brought in, the team knew who we were talking to, and the team knew what the consequences were. But that's not their decision to make, so it's not on them. They're just looking at wanting to compete and wanting to win as much as we are. That's all there is to it. And that's why I think this team works so well, right? Yes, we didn't pull it off last year, but we were right there.
Yeah,
We
definitely.
weren't miles behind. Again, and I'm not putting it down to this. And I think even the year before, Billingham might have been a bit hurt too as well, with players and things and stuff. So, the timing has to be right too as well. But when the timing happened, when we, had a couple guys playing through broken bones, through playoffs, missing guys through that last leg of the finals, of the cup finals, there, that's when it became a little bit more apparent. Okay, if this is what you guys want to do, this is the way that we're going to have to go, right? And if you don't learn from it, you're standing still, and if you're standing still, you're going to fail. And that's just the way that, because other teams, I mean, Billingham came after us last year, They didn't mess around. It was great. And it's so good to see, because it's developed this rivalry, clean rivalry,
Yeah.
right? That and there's a mass amount of mutual respect in it as well, which is great. You know what I mean? So, but again, we just fell short. We didn't get it done, and we need to find a way to make sure that we give ourselves every opportunity to get it done.
Yeah. Some of the fresh faces you brought in over the summer, then the likes of Charlie Thompson, Tom Barry, fans from our level might not necessarily know what they're capable of. I've known Charlie for some time. He's a great guy. Tell us a little bit about how they came to be on your radar then, and what can the fans expect from them as players?
You know what? To be honest with you, a lot of it has to do with the players in the room.
Yeah.
Players come and saying, "Hey, look, this guy might become available next year. Okay, give me his number." You know what I mean? Like let's start a conversation now.
Yeah.
Don't waste any time. But also you want to tread carefully because you don't know what their decisions are, what the other team's decisions are. So you don't want to talk to them during the season because you don't want to ruin your relationships with the other teams as well, saying, "Oh, what are you doing? You're going after our players." It's not, look, to be honest with you, at the end of the season's the end of the season. I'll talk to anyone. I don't care. You know what I mean? If they played for the Detroit Red Wings, it didn't matter. I'll talk to them. I don't care.
Yeah.
But during the season, you have to have that respect of the other, organizations to say, okay, well, right, perfect. If he's interested, let's set up a dialogue. We have his number. Well, as soon as the season's over, let's get in touch. And so basically, Tom Barry came across my desk a couple times last year through a couple different players. And, that was kind of the start of it, right? And then obviously when you're talking to him, then another player becomes available, Tom Barry, or sorry, Thompson, Charlie Thompson, Chaz. So, but these are also guys that I've known from my playing days. They were younger guys when I was playing,
Yeah.
right? Now they're the older guys. I think their hairline's receding and everything. I don't care. I'm going to tell them that. I'll make fun of them just like their teammates do. But but they'll make fun of me for being a ginger. But that's all good. So, but these guys they're seasoned. They're getting older. They've got experience at the higher level. And when you're looking at the direction that you're going, these are the guys that you believe that are going to help. You would like to believe that are going to help you get across that line. But also too as well, there's other teams that are talking to him, offering this, offering that, and say, look, we might only have this to offer, but we can offer you an opportunity to play with these guys, this group, and do something special here, right? And that they want to make sure that they're also having fun because that's the bottom line. If they're going out and getting waxed every night, or if they're in a bad room, or if they're not in a good environment, right? It's not going to be fun for them no matter what they're making because it's not going to be much more than maybe expenses or whatever that they might be getting. So with that, you're looking at, okay, how can we make our team stronger? Well, do you make your team stronger by getting the best players available? Not just the best players, but you need the right people too as well. So those conversations, what they don't know that you're having with them is you're always thinking, I'm always asking different questions to say, okay, well, where's this guy's head at? Right? We've had a couple players come to light that, I don't necessarily, they might have been great players, they might have been good players, but they might not necessarily have fit in the room well because, they're answering the question a little bit differently, right? So those are all things that you have to take in consideration and account when you're trying to sign good players, but better people. And that's what I really think that we have is good, honest people in the room, people that will hold me accountable, that I can hold accountable. And it's that type of relationship. So those conversations start to happen. And then all of a sudden you've got two guys that immediately improve your roster, right? Then so that's kind of how Barry and Chaz came about. I mean, with Tom, I mean, he's a regular ice time guy in the National League. So he's gonna do well at our level. Chaz Thompson's been with Steel Dogs forever. Why would they have kept him if he wasn't a good player that wasn't able to play and step in and do what he needed to do and things like that? I think he's going to be stellar at our level. He's one of the, from what I hear, He's developed a great knack for the face-off circle, which is something that we need help with this year, right? We want to be stronger on face-offs. We want to be stronger in the D zone. We want to be stronger all over the ice, not just offensively. Now, look, these guys can put up points, but we don't want to get into shootouts again. We don't want to get into those, 9-8 games, 7-6 games, right? We want to be able to say, okay, if we score 2 or 3 goals, we should win a game.
Yeah.
And that will take the pressure off because on any given night, this roster is going to be able to put up 6 or 7.
Easily. Yeah.
Right. And that's against the better teams as well. No offense to anyone, but that's what I believe. So yeah, so you want to make sure that you're getting all around players as well, guys who are going to buy in the D zone, play good defensively, but play as a team and play for the right reasons. Right. I mean, we've got when you look at the roster and like, holy who are we going to put on the power play? Now it's a whole different, right?
Yeah.
It's a whole different look. So, but it's good because if somebody's having an off night and somebody else can step in and help and support that, then
Depth, yeah.
then it happens, or if somebody's missing that night and that you could put somebody in there that can do very much, close to what the other guys are doing or even just as much. Not saying that, the other guys can't, but hey, look, then we'll go with a guy who's having a hell of a night. You know what I mean? Like, and the end goal is to win hockey games and win every game. That's the end goal. You go into every single game saying, look, we have an opportunity to win. We need to win this game. And I don't feel that we drop, the win this game at the beginning of the season. I don't feel like we dropped the Whitley game in the beginning of the season. And to be honest with you, I think that when we were playing in the cup final, we were battling back and battling back and battling back, right? I don't believe that, with this roster, maybe we did get, once we were tied, maybe we got that lead, right?
Yeah.
And filling them on the back foot, right? But you got to give credit to them because they never went. They were determined not to be on the back foot because when teams are on the back foot against us, they know how hard it is to, once we get firing, like we're firing. So that's how they became about, you look at the signing of Hadjic, that was one of the guys that when, D-side picked him up a couple years ago, I didn't know who he was. Yeah, decent numbers. And then you watch him and he's not an outright standout guy, but he gets it done.
Yeah.
He plays aggressive. He plays hard. He skates hard. He gets to loose pucks. He's great around the net, and he's got enough to finish, right? Which is what we're going to have like further down the lineup, right? Next to our other guys. But also you have to think about who he most likely is going to be playing with. And I'm not afraid to say it. He's going to be starting with Chaz and Velusiak. You know what I mean? So
ridiculous. Yeah.
so it's like, it's not a secret, but the thing is you can put any combination of these players together, right? And you're going to get a result. The chances are you're going to get a result, right? I mean, you really have to have an off night for not every guy to be firing, and you know what I mean? So, and I would say, God help the teams that we come across that they're all firing at the same time. You know what I mean? So, and that's from our goaltending on up now. Like we put 70 shots on Harrison Walker in Widnes, and I think they only gave him credit for about 55, but it was easily 60, 70 shots. We spent the whole night in their zone, and he still only let in 9 goals. You know what I mean? Like, you look at that, and you're like, holy, like, wow. The kid saw 2-3 games worth of shots in one game, right? So, but then all of a sudden, now you have the guys in front of him that are going to be attacking more, that are going to have the puck more, all around. We should be in a much better place. So you're bringing in the Harrison Walker and the Hayek. We had an opportunity late to sign Gary Simpson.
Yeah.
Right. He was a little bit, well, I say late, but late into our signings. Right. And you look at a player like him and he's, starving for a place to play. He might not have been in the most comfortable positions for himself personally in the places he was in, right? I'm not saying that that's down to the team or anyone who is, it's just didn't sometimes it just doesn't work. But
Yeah.
when you see his skill set, when you see his potential, now let's get him in a room with the group of guys that we've got, right? And he is also is a good guy. Like we've spoken to him, and I've spoken to a couple people about him, and and I've spoken to him, and he just wants to play and have fun, stress free. You know what I mean? And that's what he's going to have an opportunity to do here this year, right? So he's a player that can, I feel, easily put up over a point a game in our league, right? So, um, yeah, I mean the additions are incredible for us this year.
You've touched on it there. I was going to mention about the familiar faces to the North One fans making the switch over to Blackburn, and Jakob and Gary B, and then you mentioned Cade earlier. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's excited, and there's obviously a reason why they've decided to join us. I'm sure they could have walked into any roster in our league, so it's exciting, and it's just showing it's going to be a great season going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And all these guys, every guy throughout our lineup can play on any team in our league.
Yeah, I
And
believe
and
that.
that's where, that's kind of where the difference hopefully is, we're going to see the difference.
With the new arrivals, we've retained a good amount of players from last season as well. The likes of Luke Watson, James Riddick, Sammy Warnock that you mentioned earlier, Matty Cross, who I think is one of the most underrated D men in this league. What was the reason behind wanting to stick with them, and what do you think they'll add to the roster this season?
Their job is to add whatever they've been adding. They've been doing really, really well. We don't want them to try and overdo it and overdo things and overplay their game. We want them to focus on their game, because when they focus on their game, that's what makes them valuable to us, right? The value that you have in the Luke Watson, he's an unbelievable guy in the room. He can play. He's big. He's got good hands. He listens. He's smart. He's learning, right? He's improving, right? If you're improving, on a roster like this that's evolving, you're gonna stick around, right? You're not gonna they're not gonna be the players that you take a look and say, okay, well, they're a little bit stagnant. Let's keep them in the lineup. Let's keep them, rotating in the shifts here and there, making sure that they're getting the ice time that they need to be getting to as well, right? Because they're not here just to sit and be there for an extra body. But Luke is a guy that guys love playing with. You know what I mean? Like if someone goes down and we can put him up there, his attitude's amazing, right? He's 100% in for the betterment of the team, right? And that's all there is to it. He's there for the team. And with the team that's evolved the last couple of years, yes, his ice time has, subsided a bit from a few years back, but that's just part of his role. You know what I mean? We
Yeah,
want to get him involved more. He turned out to be a hell of a penalty killer for us. He's big, he's got a long stick. He blocks shots. He's a guy that will do those things. He plays nasty when he has to. He's a big guy. And playing nasty doesn't mean going out and fighting. We don't, that's not really part of the game anymore. You know
yeah,
what I mean? But when things get rough and nasty and ugly, he's first one in there, you know? So you want guys like that. The fact that he's like gel in the room. You know what I
yeah.
mean? He's
I've
he's
seen it.
he's
Yeah,
a guy, but he's more vocal now too as well. Like if things start to go a little sideways on the bench, which they do from time to time, because Ollie and I are able to hold our tempers very easy. Um, he's a guy that will Oz, calm down, calm down. You know what I
voice
mean?
of
Like,
reason. Yeah,
yeah, very, very much like that. And so again, the traits that he brings is invaluable. You look at Sammy again. I touch base about Sammy. He's improved every single game. His confidence level has grown, right? And sometimes, yeah, he doesn't always make the right decision and has brain farts, but who doesn't?
yeah,
You know what I mean? But when he does, Sammy, forget about that. And he will. And he'll go
yeah,
out and he'll have a better shift the next time. He doesn't dwell on the mistakes he's made, or if he's having an off night, he's not going to mope. He's not going to, bring his head down. He's going to. The thing with Sammy that I love is if he's having an off night, he works harder.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Character. Yeah,
Yeah, he
okay, it's not going right for me tonight, so I'm going to go out there and just be an idiot, like be not an idiot, but I'm going to be an asshole, right? And that you want guys to play with a little bit of and vinegar like that. So touching on Sammy there, Cross, steady Eddie. Just I'd like to see him have a little bit more. I'd like to see him be a little bit more brave. You know what I mean? Like with the puck, and he's a great skating defenseman, but he's so good at finding the first pass.
Yeah,
And that first pass coming out from behind the net could be, it could be in our zone. It could be somebody who is a little late getting back. And he finds them, with Cross, you're right. I think he's very underrated. And I think he's a great player, but also he's young. He's still learning.
yeah,
You forget he's only a couple years into this thing, right? But him, being next to Bobby, we were able to move him away from Bobby, and we still got as much as we got away from him because Bobby helped him develop, playing next to that guy. And you can put him now, you can put him anywhere in the lineup and trust that he's going to get the job done, and he's going to help the guy next to him,
yeah,
right?
definitely.
So having him come back it's great. It's great to have him back. Rids is Rids. Um, what can you say about the guy? He's just an unbelievable person. He's a great kid. He's an absolute pleasure to be around. The guys love to be around him. When you go, he went through a bit of a life change last year. Having a kid ain't easy, right? Like it's not. I remember going through it. Now, I wasn't playing at that time. I was. I don't think I was. I wasn't playing at that time, but I know how hard it is. You know what I mean? And he's more adjusted now. He knows he needs to work on his fitness with this team. This team is different, right?
Yeah,
But he's a player that when he's on, that kid will find anyone on the ice in the positions that you want them to have the puck,
yeah,
right?
playmaker. Yeah,
He's an overpasser, and I tell him all the time. But the kid can shoot. He can score.
he just needs
That's
to let it
that's
go. Yeah,
that's what frustrates me a little bit with Ritz, and I tell him all the time. But again, you don't want to push players to be something they aren't, right? And that's something that you can help them a little bit with. Say, look, you have a little bit more in your bag. Pull it out every once in a while. You know what I'm saying? If it's not if you're having an off night because you're trying to look for that open guy and you ain't finding him, or that guy's being covered because they know that that's the guy to cover, be a threat yourself. You know what I mean? Like win those battles on the walls. Needs to be stronger on the walls. Needs to win. Needs to get pucks, more pucks first. But the fact of the matter is, when I tell him, he listens.
yeah,
It's never well this, well that. No, it's I know Oz. Okay, I'll do it. I'll try it. You know what I mean? Like that's Rids, but that's why he's so successful in what he does. And the bottom line is, like I said, when he's firing, it's going to help anyone on the ice because these guys are going to get the puck from him. And when they get the puck from him, they're going to be in a position to score mostly, right? So everybody has what I love about this team is everybody has different attributes
yeah,
that, look, we're going to start very similar to what we did last year with the Lions, right? But also we're going to have opportunities when, say, a guy goes in the box or something like that, and somebody else goes out. We might find another combination. You don't know. But the fact of the matter is, everybody should be playing because everybody in this lineup is capable of it,
yeah,
right?
100%.
And I'm not saying that we had guys that weren't capable of playing. I'm just saying that they're capable of playing with everybody, and they're capable of playing their game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like that's kind of where we are. Who else did you mention? I'm sorry.
I mean, there's loads we could mention. I mean, obviously James Royds is an obvious one.
Oh,
Liam Hine, who was an outstanding player first season at this level, unbelievable.
yeah. So obviously Royds, he's Royds. I mean, the guy doesn't lose battles. Like, and that's all there is to it. He shows up to play and he shows up to train every night. Never takes like when he's on the ice, he just plays the same. You know what you're going to get out of him.
Yeah,
Bottom line, you just know. I know I can put him on in any situation. I know what I'm going to get out of him on any night, right? And he'll even say, "Oh, I'm having a bit of an off night," and you're like,
you're
"Really?
not. Yeah, you're
Like,
not.
really?" Like because you're 90% on your puck battles and you're 80% on your draws right now. Like so, but and I think he didn't have the greatest puck luck last year. He put a lot of shots on net, but a lot of it didn't fall. I think that this year there's no way he's going to have the same puck luck. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't. When you look at a guy like Liam Hine, again, a development player, a local lad who's almost to the point where Darra and Crawley are, not quite. He's still very young. It was only his first year, but for him to play as much as he did last year, I know for a fact he's going to be better this year.
Yeah.
And the kid he wants to be a professional hockey player. That's what he wants to do. So that you're going to get more out of him this year than you did last year. But also, I think with that, he'll be skating with the National League team this year too as well. But I think they're very deep in that position, right?
Yeah.
And he's a prospect, right? So there's no point in him moving to anywhere else at this moment in time. Time will tell, maybe after this year if he's going to have to move on like Darra and Crawley. And I think that putting him next to the players that we have this year, you're going to see a massive improvement out of him to the point where, yeah, we're going to help him move along if that's his choice.
Yeah.
So, but he's also going to be very effective for us, right? So yes, it's yeah, you've got all sorts of different types of players and things like that, and every player's got a different attribute, and it's all spread out really, really like evenly this year.
Yeah, so much depth.
Yeah. And that's what I think, as long as the guys, and I know they will, I have complete confidence in them that they're going to buy in to win, right? Like they're going to do something special this year. I can feel it. I know it.
Always a popular part of the podcast then. We've got some questions that have been sent in by some fans. This first one is from the NIHL North Updates page on Facebook. Shout out to Harley. What qualities does Dom want or expecting to see in his new net-minding duo now that the incredible Keddy and Thomason tandem is no more?
Goaltending? Stop the clock. That's the best quality a goaltender can have.
Yeah.
Stop it. Just get yourself in front of it. No, we like I said, with the experience that we have, Harrison is going to play the majority of the games.
Yeah.
We had a talk with him about it, and the kid wants to play, he needs to play. With Traps too as well. He's been training with us for the last year. He jumped on 2 years ago, a few sessions. He was with us every single training session last year.
Yeah, he was.
And in the more he was on the ice, you could see the more and more he was getting into it. So, if the time comes, when the time comes, we know we'll be very confident. I think that we've got more experience. That's I guess to answer the question. Sorry, I was going around the question, which I do a lot. The qualities that I'm looking for is the experience, right?
Yeah.
To lead from the back, right? He's not a quiet guy on the ice. Okay. He's gonna have a lot of input on what we're doing on penalty kill. What shots does he want to see, right? Where are we gonna force our shots from? He's gonna help, talk to the D. He's gonna bring a veteran presence, this year that, when you're banking on such a younger player in net, he's got to be focused on what he's doing, right? And you can't put the pressure on him to help guide from the back, I guess you'd say. Just stop the puck. So the qualities that I'm going to be looking from these guys, a little bit older, a little bit more experience, is I want him to help talk to the D, right? I want him to say, look, this is what you're doing off a draw. I got this shot. I want that guy taken, right? Or, on the penalty kill, where do we want to force the shot from? Like, I want to be worried about that. You guys worried about that type of thing. I'll take care of this. You take care of that, right? I think he'll come out and play the puck a lot more, right? But again, that comes with experience, right? And that comes with time played. And at the higher level, those guys need to be able to come out and play the puck a little bit more too as well, right? Settle things down at the back.
Yeah.
Play with the confidence, play with the swagger. That's the type of quality that we want to look at when you're making a change to go with a more experienced goaltending team.
Great answer. Next up, sent in via email. This is a good one. Is there enough room in the budget to sign the gyms? If not, who's going to set the tone from Sanguinet?
Oh man. Well, the gyms, huh? Unfortunately, we're not playing well shit hockey, but hey, look, like the gyms, well, take us back 10 years and we might have looked at signing the gyms. But that's an excellent question. I love that. I'd expect our whole team to set the tone. That's just the way that we're going to do it. We're going to do it from the start in the room. I'm gonna, myself and Ollie are gonna want to set the tone very, very early. But it's up to those guys to carry it. But I don't feel there's anybody in the lineup that can't play with an edge.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I don't think a lot of teams will want to play that game against us anyway, if that were to come down to it. But I don't see a lot of teams playing like that.
No, the league's changed, yeah.
The league has changed. That you're going to get your heated rivalries against Billingham and D-side and those things, right? But at the same time, I don't see guys in our lineup that can't step up to the bell and ring the bell when the time comes. So we just got to make sure that when other guys are egging them on, they make sure that if it's going to happen, that they drop their gloves first. Yeah. So if you're going to chirp, what I always say is to my team is don't up. Excuse my language.
It's all right.
Don't talk. Don't talk to players. Don't chirp players. Go out there. If they chirp, tell them. Go ahead and chirp. But let's come on. Hey, you're gonna chirp. Let's go. And then once they do that, I kind of have a feeling that most of the guys will, backsides will fall out.
Yeah.
And I don't think that anybody stands a chance against us if they want to play that type of game.
Brilliant. Thank you for that question, Sanguinet. That was
Great
brilliant.
question, by the way.
This next question was also sent in via email from No Pucking Clue. Got to say that very carefully. What style of play changes are you making this season, and is your plan to go for all the silverware?
Well, the plan is always to go for the silverware, right? And that was always the plan. That was the plan last year. We fell short. So yeah, of course we're going to go for it too as well. But we have to realize that it's not just as easy as signing a team, throwing your sticks on the ice, and getting silverware, right? It's Billingham is going to come hard. They're going to want to defend it. They did a very, very special thing last year, and congratulations to them. But they're the guys who ultimately you're building to be. But let's face it, everybody wanted to be Billingham last year, right? We wanted to.
Yeah.
We're going to do it in our way. But yeah, we're going to go for it. We want to go for everything this year. That's the whole goal. So when it comes to style of play, I don't want to change a lot. I don't think that we need to change a lot. I think we need to tighten up in some areas, of course, defensively. Maybe some set breakouts, things like that. Focus on our penalty kill a little bit more too. But I like the fact that, I don't mind going down shorthanded. Right? Like, because we proved that we could score goals shorthanded. I mean, Jake had a shorthanded match, right? So we've got everybody in the lineup that can play certain roles in certain games, but we need to make sure that everybody's, playing together. That's what we want to make sure we're doing. We want to try and gel early. And as soon as you gel early, that's the kind of the style. We want to play a fast game. We want to run teams out of the rinks. Whether it's ours or theirs, we want to be all over the puck. We want to keep the puck all night long.
Yeah.
So I want puck possession, and I want it to be 60-40. That's what I want. In certain games, I would expect it to be 80-20, right? So being smart with the puck, making right decisions, not trying to do things on our own, because we have guys that can play the game on their own if they wanted to. But we need to stay away from that this year. We need to make sure we're playing as a team. So good team, solid, fast, hard game. A lot of what we've been building.
Yeah. This next question, well, there's a couple of them from Dan Rundle. Which team do you think is going to be the biggest threat this year? I imagine that's probably going to be the Stars. And what are your thoughts on Telford joining the league?
Okay, so
when it comes to the biggest threats, obviously Billingham's going to be strong. They've got a great group of players that have been playing together forever. They know how to win. They understand it. They get it. They figured out the equation, right? They've got the answer. So they're always going to be tough to play. I don't think we can write off Solihull. I think they're going to be right up there this year.
Yeah.
Remember, they ran into injuries last year, right? They had Malkai was out for a bit, right? And then I think Goodison was out for a bit. They're still going to be a very solid team that especially knows how to win at home,
Yeah.
right? So I think that I don't think people talk about Solihull enough, and I think that if
Yeah, that's
we're
true.
not aware, then they'll bite you. They're an incredible group of guys over there, and I think that they always end up signing a couple good players too as well, like in the offseason, right? They've always improved their team. They've always seemed to improve. And yeah, I mean, I think D side will be up there. I think that they've signed another import this year, right? They're going to be I think that they're going to be very, very talented within their first two lines, right? We'll see how they do with the rest of their signings on depth. But again, I think two lines versus the amount of guys that we have, we should be able to handle them. Um, I think Telford's underrated already.
Yeah.
I think people thinking they're coming up from the National League. I think that they'll very easily be able to sting people. And I know personally that Jason Silverthorne is no joke.
Yeah.
Well, one, he's not a joke as a player because I say kid, the man can still play. So I mean, I know Jason. He's a very good friend of mine. And he's going to have those guys, prepared every night. He's a competitor and he's going to lead by example. So that means they're going to be coming hard, right? They're going to do a lot of development. They're going to have a lot of good young talent. And with young talent, those guys tend to work, right? And they work hard. And if we don't work hard against them, they could bite us,
Yeah.
right? We haven't seen much action about what Hull's doing, but they always seem to be pretty decent in the sense of they'll bite you if you're not ready to play. So yeah, Nottingham again. Knott says they always they get better and better every year because they have the same group of young players who are getting a year and year older, right?
Yeah.
They're going to be better than they were last year. That's evolution, right? So yeah, I think that there's going to be some very good games this year, but I think every team needs to be looked at as a threat.
Yeah.
Every team that comes up against the Blackburn Hawks are going to know that they're going to have to play very well, because if we're on it and they're not playing hard and playing well, we will very easily be able to embarrass them, and nobody wants to do that. So we'll have a target on our back no matter what, right? Just like Billingham does. You have to show up against them. You have to, because if you don't, they're going to wax you. So that's the I wouldn't say downside, because it's not really a downside, but it's the other side of what we're building. Is people see the names on the sheet and like, we better be friggin' ready to go tonight,
Yeah.
because if not, it's gonna get ugly. And we've proven that. So and we've proven that with the team that we had before, let alone the team that we signed now.
Next question was on Facebook from Susan Carter. Will they be retiring number 8?
That's a question for the organization. Unfortunately, as a coach, I'm not really in the room to decide what happens there. But I imagine that they would do, of course.
Yeah.
So.
A couple of questions from Christian Ellis. You'll know him. He's the one that drinks beers by the jug.
Yeah, the pictures. He's always a witness that
Yeah.
part of the glass when we go out. Yeah. What was his name again?
Christian.
What's up, Christian?
What's the strangest ice hockey team name that you've ever heard? That's his first question.
Strangest team name? Oh, I don't even know. I mean, that's a good one, but I mean, I was a little bit shocked at the mammoth that
Utah.
named their team the Mammoth. I was a bit shocked on that, like,
Yeah.
because it's Utah Mammoth, right? It's not Mammoths.
Yeah.
It's another team without the S, but there's not a lot of teams without the S. Um, I think that the Avalanche was a bit weird to start with, right? Like it's just I thought it was I think it's creative, but the weirdest no any team that's HC that's the weirdest thing to me. Okay, like sorry, but you don't just call yourself like the Blackburn HC. Like that's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing to me. So yeah, so there is an answer to that. That any team with HC. So you got to have something. You got to have
Yeah.
you got to be something.
What do you prefer, NASCAR or Formula One, and why?
NASCAR. Yeah, I wanted, you know what? To be honest with you, I belong in the South, man. I love country music. I love NASCAR. I love everything about it, the accents. I think the horsepower, right?
Yeah.
Like the raw, I guess maybe, I don't know. I know it just goes in a circle, but I don't know. It's just mean. It's just,
Yeah, there's grit to it. Yeah.
F1 is cool, don't get me wrong, and I've gotten into it a little bit more since I've been in Europe because it's not as big of a thing in the States when I came over to Europe. It's becoming a lot bigger in the States, and I've been to the Detroit Grand Prix quite some time ago, so that was cool. I mean, you can hear them from 20 miles away, right? So that's pretty cool too. But I like the roar of the I like the way the engines sound differently.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I've recently started watching it. It's a very entertaining sport, and you say it goes round in a circle, but there's methods to it and how they plan what they're doing a couple of laps in advance. It's clever.
Yeah, but I'm also a guy that would prefer driving a Mustang or a 66 Chevelle because of the noise over a Lamborghini or a Ferrari. That's just, the high pitched screams just doesn't do it for me. It's the hard, the rumbles that's, that shake you kind of to the bone.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, good question.
So one final question then before we let you go. What message would you like to give the Hawks fans ahead of the upcoming season?
Get out here. Come see us play because this is a special team. It's a special group and they deserve your support, these boys. I think that we've done a lot of good things here in the last few years and, that the ball's rolling forward. It's snowballed quite a bit. And with the signings that you guys can see that, the work that's going into the club from the ownership down, I think that everybody deserves, to be entertained. And I think that if you come out, you're going to be entertained.
Brilliant. Well, we'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your summer. Hope you get some chance to get on the golf course because we know you like that. And we'll see you. I'll see you on Media Day. I think it's the next time I'll see you.
Excellent. Sounds good. I appreciate your time. Thanks, Graham.
Brilliant. No worries. See you soon, mate.
Bye.
Hawks Talk.